Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashem El Shai Bahashem Wakatadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Akwath that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And I'm going to read a couple of inserts out of this book here, which is called The Jew, a Negro. And the author is author Talmage, Abernethy. And he is an Edomite. PhD, 1872 to 1956. And basically, he wrote this book, The Jew, a Negro. So he screws up everything else, but he gets that part right. So we're going to just, read a few inserts from his book. But before we do so, we're going to play about 5 minutes of this video because, like in his book, and as you're going to see on the screen, Esau always tells you, he'll tell you one truth and then tell you three lies. And you're going to see him portray because the name of the video is The Black Pharaohs, the Kingdom of Kush, a great civilization of the past. See you in history. That's, so I imagine this is a channel. But he's still going to show Egyptians as Edomites and Assyrians as Edomites, when we know that those were all people of color, dark brown flesh men. What they were referred to ignorantly as Negro or black or African. All right, so without any further ado,
the ancient Egyptians built one of the greatest empires in history, and, despite facing many difficulties, managed to maintain their sovereignty over almost the entire Nile River Valley. But Africa has always been a gigantic continent, inhabited by many different peoples. Some wanted to conquer the fertile lands of Egypt. Kingdoms and tribes with origins in Libya, Syria, and Turkey were constantly fighting against Egypt. But there were a people whose tenacity and courage frightened even the powerful Egyptians. The Nubians were an African people who lived in the Nubia region in today's Sudan. The Nubian people have been living in that region for a long time. By 3100 BC, there would be Nubian villages along the River Nile. During much of their history, the Nubians did not develop any writing. Much of what we know about them is in the records left by the Egyptians. The Nubia was a region rich in gold veins, semi-precious stones, ebony wood, incense, and ivory. This wide range of resources encouraged the Egyptians to invade that region in search of extremely useful raw materials.
Now let's pause it right there. Now he's showing you Egyptians as so-called white men. All right, which is a bold-faced lie. All right, or should I say it isn't a complete and total lie. What it is that they're showing you history from the time, they're showing you art depictions from the time of the Ptolemies. All right, when one of Alexander's four generals took over Egypt. That's why you had a city called Alexandria in Egypt. All right, but these are not the original inhabitants, and this is what Esau does. He takes on the dress, the customs of other peoples and claims their heritage. Right, just like he came to America, now he calls himself an American. He went to Britain and called himself a Briton. He went to Ireland and called himself Irish. To Australia and called himself Australian, and so forth. This is what they do, all right, to hide the fact that they are indeed the Edomites. All right, because the Bible scholars, all right, and the relics show you who the Egyptians were, all right. Got a book here we're going to use, and I'm going to let this video continue to play for a few more minutes. That's full of the images of the actual, this is called, what is this book? It's called The History and Treasures of Ancient Civilizations, all right, by Giorgio Ferrero. And I've used this book in the past, and they've deleted a lot of these videos off the old Maccabean Spirit channel, but it just showed you, you know, the people of Egypt were indeed Negroes, clearly, or the Negroid type, as according to the definition of the so-called white man. Even though they tried to destroy all the lips and noses to hide those features, it didn't work because there's too many relics. As a matter of fact, they just dug up, these were actual Hebrews in slavery, right? In Egypt. Remember, Moses, because this is when they were building the pyramids. Moses grew up and was raised in the house of Pharaoh, all right? Remember that. He was confused or as an Egyptian by his to-be wife. All right? So the Egyptians were a dark race of people. Okay? More Hebrew slaves and Egyptians. Okay? So, you know, these people, as you see on the screen, they're liars. They lie. Right? Oh, here more relics of Hebrew slaves in Egypt. All right? And actual Hamites. So, you know, I would question where is now let's go to page 157, 158, because that was with Hebrews. Now let's go look at some Hamites. I mean, this book is full of images of actual Egyptians prior to the Ptolemies, all right, which were so-called Caucasians, Edomites. These are your actual Egyptians, the royal people of that land, you know, with all their weird gods and strangeness. All right, those were Israelites who were being put in water there, drowning, you know, being thrown into the Nile River. So the images and the relics from the time show you a different story from artist depictions that were created by so-called white men. All right, so just to know that part, these people are liars.
The Nubians resisted the Egyptian invasions as much as possible, but they were militarily inferior and were progressively pushed south. Due to the various periods of instability,
Hence the reason why the Hamites are no longer in their lands in Egypt, North Africa today. North Africa, Egypt is full of Ishmaelites and Edomite mixtures. All right, that is who is there today. All right.
In Egypt, the Nubians were able to organize more effective defenses. During periods of peace, Nubians and Egyptians traded and shared.
See, there you go. So they're showing you these Edomites now as Egyptians, mixing and mingling with the Nubians.
Different forms of knowledge. During the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose I, the Nubians were part of the Egyptian Empire, but that dominion quickly collapsed, and the Nubians established a unified kingdom, with Napata as its capital. The Nubians thus founded the Kingdom of Kush, which would become a respected African power. The term Kushite Kingdom comes from the Egyptians, who called the Nubian Kush. The founder of this new kingdom was a tribal leader.
Now, that's the Bible, one of Ham's sons, the Hamites. The men, the people who were native to Africa were called Hamites, and Cush was one of his sons. That is not just something that these Edomite Egyptians that are now in the land, the Ptolemies, called them. So that's a fabrication.
Leader named Alara, who became king of all the Nubians. With the Kushite kingdom established, the next step was to ensure its defense and economy. For this, Alara's successors reigned successfully, strengthening the kingdom and expanding their domains. The Kushites began to trade with Egypt through the Nile. They also established contact with the Arab kingdoms such as Nabatea and Sheba. The riches of the Kushites were extremely popular. Their leaders, priests, and even farm animals, like horses, were always embellished with pieces of gold and rubies.
Now, see, what they are showing you is they're showing you dark kingdoms that were rich and wealthy and civilized, with order, with kings and laws and governments. Something that white superiority said did not exist, which was taught during the times of the 1700s all the way up until now, actually, because they still don't teach this sort of history in schools and the classrooms today. You know, you still have people on the comment board, Edomites, saying things like you should be thankful that we civilized you and gave you this and gave you that. When the truth of the matter is, we civilized them. Dark nations civilized the Edomites. The Edomites just stole everyone's heritage and claimed it to be their own. And that's just the brutal truth that they don't want to face. Or those who know it don't speak about it, or they just lie about history like this one. And this is the sort of history that they're taught.
Over time, and due to the periods of instability in Egypt, the Kushites started to conquer Egyptian cities, including the city of Thebes. At the height of their power, under the command of King Pius.
So by saying that, what he's trying to say is that that's why you find dark images in Egypt, all right? Because of these Nubians that took it over. No, that Egypt was always the land of Ham, all the way up to Babylon in the northern part of Africa, which we're going to read a definition of Ham out of the Zondervan's and out of the Young's Bible Dictionary, what the Bible scholars had to say about, this situation.